back with us at Silverstone. Time to go home for 100,000 people capacity crowd here. They all got in okay, and let's hope they're all leaving safely as well. And I believe we can go straight to the press conference.
Masters British Grand Prix. To Rubens Barrichello, third for Scuderia Ferrari Marlboro. To Kimi Raikkonen, second for West McLaren Mercedes. And to Michael Schumacher, winning his career 80th Grand Prix victory, his 10th win of the year for Scuderia Ferrari Marlboro. Michael, a big smile on your face. A great victory, two-stop strategy this time, to the three of most of your closest opposition.
Yeah, obviously I was amazed about how the race went. I thought we had a very good option and strategy for the race, but that it would pay out so early, leading the race so early, basically after my first pit stop, coming in front of and ahead of everybody, that was not the plan, honestly. But my car was just going so well in these last laps when I had free track, and I was able to close the margin I had on Kimi, which he pulled out in his first 11 laps, and that was just phenomenal. And after this, it was just controlling it. Lucky, obviously, with the strategy I had, that Kimi was behind me. I could control that. It was tight in a couple of areas, but not too tight, and very interesting, obviously.
Well, of course, what you could not predict was the safety car coming out about 20 laps from the end, and then it was gloves off, racing to the finish.
Yeah, obviously that sort of took away my comfortable lead I had built up by that stage. And I was probably lucky that I had two other drivers between me and Kimi, because the warm-up performance of Kimi's tyres and my tyres was noticeably different. And had he been directly behind me, thanks to the safety car, who was going very, very slow around, didn't look to put any effort in his drive, we had very cold tyres, and that didn't really help me for the first couple of laps. Then Kimi came close. We had a nice little fight for a couple of laps, and my tyres came back, and I was able to open again the lead.
It was pretty close, but both you and Rubens have been saying all weekend how good the car's been, particularly on fast corners here. Is that where you had the advantage over Kimi towards the end?
Looking at it, Kimi seemed to be very good in the infield, in the last sector in particular. But saying that, obviously we were on different strategies. He was a lot lighter while he was behind me. It's difficult for me to predict how really the situation was, but we had the best package, obviously, for the whole circuit.
Indeed, congratulations. Kimi, what a start. Take us through that start and those early laps.
It was good. The start was very good. I got enough heat on the tires and got good start on the first place, and I just tried to went as quick as I could, and I think so after first lap was quite a big gap already. I kept pushing all the time, but then I was a bit unlucky with the traffic. I stuck behind like 2 Minardis after the first pit stop, and it just cost me way too much time. Every time when I came out with the new tires, I always stuck behind someone, but that's racing, and at least we got the second place in that.
Indeed, your first podium since Suzuka last year. But from the safety car onwards, you were very close to Michael within a couple of laps of the car going in, and then Michael started to pull away again.
Yeah, I think so. The last set of tires, I had a little bit more difficulties with the rear end than any other set. So, like Michael said, I was hoping that I could get past the two lapped cars very quickly, because I knew with the new tires I can really challenge him. But I got close to him, but not past him. So I think so in the end, for me and the team, for Mercedes, for everybody, it's good results, because after the really difficult start of the season, we finally got things going the right way and got back on the right track, and we got some results, and now it's only the second race for the car, so hopefully we can improve it.
Indeed, congratulations. Rubens, maintaining your record, the only man to score points in every race so far this season. A lot of racing with Jenson Button there, got the better of him in the pit stops, and then nearly caught Kimi at the end.
Yeah, but I had a quite a good race, but a tough one. I think, after the start, it was quite clearly that they had this warming up a bit better than us, and it was really difficult to follow Kimi for the first 3 laps. So therefore we lost a little bit of time, and it was difficult to catch him up. I was catching slightly, open up on Jason, but then when I came to the first pit stop, I went out a little bit heavy and in the middle of the traffic, and the car wasn't working very well. That's the part of the race that really cost me. more points really and maybe the victory. After all, it was quite clearly that Michael on a two-stop, he was doing a superb job and he was going to win. So when I saw the safety car, then everything was alive again. But unfortunately, again, I had too much problems on the first 2 laps warming up again, and then cost me again a bit of a time.
Did you get close enough to Kimi right at the end to have a go at him?
No, I think the pace was too high to try to have a go. I was thinking that the public was thinking that I could really do it because of last week, the final moment. But it's I had to be a little bit faster to try to do anything. I was faster than him on the sector 1 through Beckett and everything, but he was faster to sector 3 in the infield, so it was difficult to make it.
Michael, what a season this is turning out to be. I know there's a long way to go, but can we just reflect a little on your thoughts on this victory, how things are just going so well for you, how good the car is, and actually this is the first time you've ever won a race, a Formula 1 race, from 4th on the grid, for what that's worth.
Yeah, it doesn't mean a lot in a way. We obviously sacrificed qualifying for the race strategy in a way, and it just paid out. And it's in a way it's unbelievable what happens to me this year, to the team. But I think it just pays back for all the hard work everybody has done in the factory. We never have let off in a way. We learned our lesson from last year when maybe we took it a little bit too easy at some stage, and we just at the right time came back. And because everybody felt the pain of this, nobody really wanted to be back in this pain. And everybody since then has kept pushing and has a high motivation. I see every time I go for test with the test team, those guys that just work flat out all the time, and you see how hungry they still are, and it's just fantastic. And each one sort of pushes the other one, and it's just an ongoing thing. I'm just so proud and delighted to be in the team and be able to live in that phase of Ferrari.
The pain did last over 20 years after Jody Scheckter won that title back in the late 70s. Michael Schumacher, 10 out of 10. Then Kimi Raikkonen on the podium. That's excellent for the young Finn and a big boost for McLaren. We'll hear from Ron Dennis in just a moment. Rubens Barrichello, a dozen successive finishes for the Brazilian, and the majority of those on the podium as well. Jenson Button pushed down to 4th place. Montoya 5th in the Williams, on his way to McLaren next season. Fisichella, surely driver of the day, pushed down to the back of the grid after that Sauber had to change an engine, and finishing 6th. David Coulthard, a couple of points for DC in his home Grand Prix, and Mark Webber, Jaguar, our featured team of the weekend, his 4th of the season, and Jaguars as well. Ton up, as James has said, for Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello 26 points behind on 74. Jenson Button will have to go some to break those Ferraris now. Still 3rd though on 53. Trulli, unfortunate. We'll have another look at his crash very shortly. Still on 46. Alonso 33. Montoya pushing up on the Spaniard there. He has 29. Raikkonen improving to 18. And Sato and David Coulthard both on 14 points. 174 first, 79 second, enough said. BAR on 67, cementing their place in 3rd. Williams and McLaren, that could still be a lively scrap for 4th place, and Sauber might just push on and get involved as well. Toyota 8 points, Jordan have 5, Jaguar have 4, and Minardi just that single point scored by Baumgartner at Indianapolis. A lot of pain felt this season by McLaren and by Ron Dennis. He has taken it all on the chin, and now he's got a man on the podium at his home Grand Prix. Let's hear from Ron Dennis.
Well, Ron, remember the beginning of the season, Kimi could hardly finish a race for love or money. Now a great position at your home race.
Yeah, we've sort of turned things up a little bit. I think it's obviously a step in the right direction. I'm looking forward to Hockenheim. We've got another step there. Maybe we can take the race to Michael, and just to win some races before the end of the season would be great. But we'll enjoy the 2nd place, but it is the first of the losers, and we're here to win. So we'll work hard between now and Hockenheim.
Yeah, Hockenheim should be better for the Michelins, shouldn't it? Because you see Fisichella's performance. Bridgestone's really had a bit of an edge here.
Yeah, I think they had a tyre edge. I mean, Fisichella's a performance exactly. It just shows what we're up against. But I think we've got the pace. And even if you fuel correct Michael's qualifying strategy, we still had the edge even in qualifying. So we're close. It's just race tyre needs to be a little bit better, which, as you said, in Hockenheim it should be.
I think you've actually got closer to Michael coming out the pit stops than anyone has this season.
Yeah, it was a little bit frustrating. You know, we got blocked in the traffic, and Michael was backing us into Rubens at one stage, and then the incident helped a little bit. But it was a good race. We can do better at the next run, though.
Well done, Ron.
The glint is back in Ron Dennis's eye. Sum up the British Grand Prix for us, Tony.
I thought it was very exciting. There's been two exciting races this year. One was Monte Carlo, the second was the British Grand Prix. It's a great circuit. It's produced a lot of overtaking. I was up to about 25 overtaking manoeuvres and lost count. Some went off screen as well. It was a tremendous race.
Do you share Tony's enthusiasm for the race you've just seen?
I think it's one of the better races this season. This circuit produces good racing. Definitely one of the closest. I mean, it's the closest finish we've seen in a long time. Even if the safety car had been out the equation, it still would have been close for most of those cars on the finish.
Just looking at the start of the race, Kimi Raikkonen got an absolute flyer, didn't he?
He did. Kimi was very clean off the grid. Rubens a little bit slow, actually, but Kimi put an impressive first lap in. I mean, he was some 4 seconds adrift of Rubens Barrichello and Michael Schumacher there at the front end of that pack when he came around and crossed the line. But I think, watch it here, Kimi's away, Rubens slightly slow, Jensen does a good start and defends his position against Michael Schumacher very well indeed. There's a bit of scrapping at the back of the grid there, but everybody gets through cleanly.
More from you in just a moment. I believe we're going to be joined now by Ross Brawn. Ross, welcome. Doesn't seem to matter to you, does it? 4 stops or 2, the outcome is still the same.
Well, it just to get ourselves out of phase with the others, and you either do it by doing 4 stops, or as today we do it by 2 stops. Give Michael some free track, and you can see what he does.
It always seems to happen that he comes out and there is free track around. Now, you're not just rolling the dice and guessing there, are you? You know what you're doing.
Well, the numbers have got to stack up, and if we see an opportunity, then we go for it. And I say he is the master of it, and he makes us look good, because we just have to give him an opportunity, and away he goes.
Do you still admire those lightning quick laps that Michael can put in? I mean, Kimi's pulled in and he has thrown in 2 or 3 laps and almost decided the race there.
Well, that was a crucial part of the race for sure, and I was amazed we came out of the pits in front of Kimi, because our predictions were that we would come out just behind Kimi, but we're still in a very strong position because of a 2-stop strategy. So for Michael to come out in front of Kimi was fantastic, and really meant that it was difficult for Kimi to respond to that.
For those people who say, oh no, not that red team again, not that man Michael Schumacher again, what would you say to them?
Well, it's difficult. There's half the field who are delighted with what he's doing and half who don't like it, and that's the way it is. But it is history in the making. I mean, the guy is exceptional, and try and enjoy it for what it is, because I don't think it'll ever happen again.
Really? You think we're seeing an absolute one-off here, do you?
I think so. So maybe I'm biased.
How about your second driver? How about Rubens Barrichello? He had that wonderful victory here last year. I mean, are we getting to the stage in the season, Ross, where you're thinking, well, we might as well let Rubens have one now?
Well, there's no team tactics now, as you know, so whoever wins. And we had a long debate because Rubens was on a different strategy about how it would work out in the race. And both drivers agreed to race each other, but it didn't come to that. And unfortunately, Rubens got a little bit messy in the middle of the field at one stage. We managed to get him past Jensen in the pit stops, but Kimi was very quick today and couldn't respond to that. Rubens wanted a very aggressive strategy. He was up for a very aggressive strategy. It just didn't quite work today.
What do you feel about your rivals today? Do you think they are getting closer to you, or is the gap as wide as ever, Ross?
No, I think quite close today. I think they're keeping us on our toes, and that's good. I mean, the thing is, there's a different rival each race, which is good for us for the constructors, because McLaren scored today. Last race it was Renault. Prior to that it's BAR. So from the constructors' point of view, it's great we've got all these different competitors, but they're keeping us honest, that's for sure.
Yeah, looking at that constructors' table, I get the feeling you might just keep that at the end of the season if you're very, very, very lucky, Ross. I'd like to have a word before you go about Silverstone, though. This place has a lot of critics. It seems to take a whacking every year we come here. What are your thoughts about Silverstone, the racetrack, and the British Grand Prix?
I think it's a classic racetrack. I mean, you saw the disappointment when we lost Spa, and the efforts that were made to get it back onto the Grand Prix calendar. And I don't think people would let Silverstone go that easily. It's a great racetrack, and tremendous atmosphere, tremendous history, and I think a lot of people will fight very hard before we lose Silverstone, me included.
And celebrations tonight, are you not getting blasé at all, or do you celebrate every victory as though it's going to be your last?
We do wonder if it's going to be our last, so it might surprise you, but we'll have a quiet night tonight, but tomorrow there's a little party in the factory, and then during the week we have a buffet lunch with all the guys, all the guys at the back of the factory who contributed to the successes. So, and that happens every Grand Prix, so our luncheon bill's pretty expensive this year.
And does Ross pour some of that Rosso, some of that red wine as well?
I've been known to, yes.
You enjoy it. We'll see you in Germany. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Thank you, Ross. Okay, let's get back to the race, shall we, Tony? And Kimi Räikkönen, we saw him at the start there blazing away, and then him and Takuma Sato had a good bit of interplay. At that stage, of course, we thought that Kimi could even do it, didn't we?
Well, this is the story of everybody else's race, isn't it? Traffic, traffic, traffic. Jensen got caught, Kimi got caught, even in the restart. It just shows you how difficult. They was drafting right up the gearbox of Takuma Sato and into Copse there, which is incredible G as they fly into that corner at 160 miles an hour. But it just shows you again with the aerodynamics, which is so strong on these cars. Even here, you can get right up underneath the car. That's a brave move.
We're hearing Ross Brawn talk there about how amazing Michael Schumacher is when he throws in those quick laps, the deciding laps of the British Grand Prix. His pit stop, and he emerged in the lead, didn't he? But you, as a driver, must admire what Michael does.
He's exceptional. I mean, Ross says it, and you'd have to agree with it. He's got the credentials and his stats way up. This is a world champion and a world championship team at their best, and I don't think there's anybody down the pit lane who can take anything away from those guys. Everyone's got to catch up to him. We've seen McLaren make a big step. We've seen Renault make a big step. But, the guy just puts laps in. It's almost like he's playing with everybody else on the field. Ross says, we're keeping them honest and on their toes, but I haven't seen them start running yet.
It's such a familiar pattern, isn't it? And we have to pay credit to his pit crew, the Ferrari pit crew as well, Tony, because we've seen things go wrong with Rubens Barrichello's car occasionally. I can't remember the last thing happened with the Michael Schumacher pit stop.
No, they're extremely well drilled, fantastically drilled, and it is sort of poetry in motion when you watch them moving around like that. But I think the thing is that Ferrari have got so much in store because Michael says, look, I don't have to go and keep breaking lap. If I can just stay ahead of them, I will. So when he needs to turn that little screw, he does. And what we miss here is Bridgestone and the contribution that they made over the winter. It's a huge percentage of the car's performance. Those tyres were phenomenal today.
Let's look at Italy's little team at Minardi, who've had a pretty awful weekend to contend with, and looking at something that happened in their pits, Tony, a slight contrast, I would think, to what normally happens at Ferrari.
Well, it's the same as, when Mark and I were working together down there, I was looking after the pit crew as team manager. He's the driver coming in. And when I was speaking to Christian Klein, I said, it's very easy to knock one of your men over because you rely on precision. You rely on everybody knowing their place and where they're going to be. Fortunately, no one's been really injured. We have had a few accidents. Even Nigel Stepney from Ferrari was knocked over by Schumacher, as you remember, 3 years ago, and broke his ankle.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about Jenson Button in just a moment. David Coulthard has won this race twice. He's picked up a couple of points today, and here he is now with Alan McNish.
Hi, David. How did the things go for you? Looked a bit tough out there at times?
Yeah, I haven't really been happy with the balance mechanically through Saturday and the race. Kimi that was really hooked up in that place, and apparently it would look like he was like that in the race as well. So I struggled in that area, and each set of tyres I put on, I didn't go any quicker at all. So a bit disappointing for me.
And Adrian was saying earlier that he thought that the tyres were a little bit of an issue towards the end of the stints. Did you have the same problem?
Yeah, what tends to happen is we don't, now we've got this sort of graining control. We don't wear the front tyre down, but it loses performance towards the end of the stint. And so you end up with a car that's got oversteer and understeer, so a bit of a four-wheel drift through the corner. I think the Bridgestone tyre is more consistent in these conditions, so we just need to work hard. We've got a test here for 2 days. We've got 2 cars running down in Jerez, and see what we can pick for Hockenheim.
Okay, hope you have a good time here and at Hockenheim.
Thanks.
Just looking out of the window of our studio here, lots of people are wearing BAR colours. A lot of people came here to support Jenson Button. What were your views of his Grand Prix?
I think he had a solid race, he had a solid performance, but what we've seen now is McLaren have stepped up, and that's taken a position away from where Jenson's been on these podiums at the beginning of the season. Jenson has got the ability as a driver, we all know that, but he just doesn't quite have the car underneath him. When he gets the car, when BAR lift that performance again, you will see him elevate himself onto a podium position higher than third. And until then, we're going to have to wait. But Jenson has got a huge future in front of him. He's got a lot of potential, as I say.
BAR haven't quite been right on it, have they, throughout the weekend?
No, they haven't, and they've struggled a little bit, especially on the aerodynamic side. And the problem is with a team like that, they're making so many discoveries, and they've got so many innovations in their locker, as they discovered at the Jerez test. Do they put them all on the car here? Some of them have tried, some of them have half tried. They were tempted to do it, but they didn't. They stuck with what they knew, and therefore they struggled a little bit, especially when it was very, very windy, and the car was very pitch sensitive.
See, that was particularly in qualifying, wasn't it, for Jensen? Well, he didn't give us the victory that we yearn for, but he's finished fourth. Let's have a word with Jensen now.
Jensen, good result. Did you hope for a bit more?
Yeah, we did, but we're just not quick enough. Sat behind the Ferrari, you can see that, and it's everywhere. They just got more grip. In Beckett's, as you know, to start with, can get a little bit twitchy on the entry, and I've got that, and then I've got a lot of understeer at the exit as well, exit of Beckett, so it's just very low grip.
You look to be struggling on your third set.
Yeah, it seemed to get worse and worse. I don't know, because there was more rubber laid down or something, maybe it just didn't work for us, but it seemed to get worse and worse. We try to play with the pressures a bit to help it, but I think it just made it worse.
Well, good luck for the next one.
Yep, good luck. The next one coming up in Hockenheim in a couple of weeks' time. Biggest accident of the day, 170 miles an hour. Jarno Trulli in the Renault, Tony, and our first thoughts, it could be rear suspension failure.
Well, the only reason we were thinking about that is because it happened to him in Canada when he went off the line and the suspension actually collapsed when they were putting all the power through the rear. The car dropped like a drunken duck and off he went to the side of the track. And Mark and I were talking about it. For it to happen there when he exited Bridge seems like a potential failure. And clearly the Renault team will be investigating it. As this, the other thing about the big sand trap is when the car digs in, then you get the flip and the car goes over. And I was also a little bit worried about the doctor here. He was just slightly aggressive with pulling him out of the way. Don't forget, he's just had this big crash. I know he wants to get him out of the way, but the yellow flags are waving. He puts him on the side. Look, you're all right. Count my fingers. Talk him through. I just thought the doctor was slightly aggressive with him there. If it had been Mark, he'd have probably smacked him.
But Mark, the speed with which everybody reacted here, no matter what that doctor did or might not have done, that's in direct contrast to what happened to Ralf Schumacher at Indianapolis.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I know the circumstances are different, and also the track is slightly different in the configuration, but you see how quickly the marshals responded. I think they did a very good job. One problem you do have there, especially with Trulli, is that he's got some problems with his vocal cords and he can't talk, so he couldn't react to the doctor either. But, you know, that's it is a vast improvement, and that's how it should be. You should have safety to that level.
Jarno Trulli, then, he has got one or two problems with those vocal cords. He's actually been doing quite a few interviews via a computer, but I think we can snatch a few words with him now.
Jarno, first thing, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you, mate. I'm okay. I just had a rear suspension or something, failure on my rear left end, and then the car just went on the inside, big crash, roll over, but the car worked out pretty well in terms of
it's
safety.
Fine?
Yeah, fine. Just
okay.
a bit crazier than before, probably, but I'm all right.
Okay, good to hear it.
Yeah, great to hear him making a joke of that. We can talk to his race engineer now. He's called Alan Permain.
Yeah, down here with Alan. Alan, what do you think? I mean, it's very early to say, isn't it, what the cause was? Jarno suspects suspension, but you haven't been able to have a look at the car yet.
No, we've got the car back, and it is a terrible mess, obviously, and it's very difficult to separate the cause of the crash and the effects of the crash. I mean, the whole back end's completely smashed up, so we're trying to piece things together as we speak. We don't have our high-speed data off the car yet. We've only got our telemetry that's transmitted back during the race. So when we get that downloaded, we'll know more, I think.
Is a gut feeling that Jarno might be right and that suspension might... Because it's a very high-loaded corner bridge, isn't it?
It is very high-loaded. It's flat out. He said to me that something broke at the rear. He felt something broke at the rear. Now, we don't know if that's suspension or a tyre or what. We've no idea at the moment. It doesn't look like a tyre because we monitor the pressures on board, and that looks okay. But he said he felt the car go down at the rear, started dragging, and then just threw him into the barriers.
The flip over was quite nasty, wasn't it? Is this an argument to have tarmac runoffs rather than sand traps, do you think?
I think it looked a lot worse than it was. Jarno said it absolutely was no problem at all for him. He doesn't feel battered or bruised or anything. The accident looked quite bad, but it actually went in backwards into tyres, which is reasonably soft, and then spun round, pulled all the front suspension off, and then dug in at reasonably slow speed. So
I don't know really what the argument between sand traps and tarmac would be there, but it didn't cause him any trouble.
Thanks very much, Alan.
170 mile an hour crash, car in pieces, driver joking just a few minutes afterwards. That's F1 2004. You're back with us at Silverstone, concluding our coverage of the British Grand Prix. A reminder of the result, another victory up for Michael Schumacher. Kimi Raikkonen on the podium for McLaren, their first of the year. Barrichello making it a Ferrari sandwich. Button for Britain, fourth. Montoya fifth in the Williams. Fisichella, we'll talk about him in a second. Excellent drive in the Sauber. David Coulthard, a couple of points for McLaren, and Mark Webber scoring one for Jaguar. You know all about restarts, don't you, after your racing in America, your career there. Safety car came out after the Trulli crash, and we wondered, could Kimi Raikkonen possibly get past Michael Schumacher? Do you ever believe he could?
Well, there was an opportunity for Kimi there because his tyres, his Michelin tyres, would perform a lot better at the beginning of that stint again. Michael Schumacher actually alluded to the fact that he wasn't happy with the pace of the safety car. He wanted the safety car to be a lot faster so he could maintain a better pressure in his tyres and get that heat generated. But I think the fortunate thing, there was a couple of back markers in between Kimi and Michael, just gave Michael a breather. As hard as what Kimi would push, he just couldn't get on the backside of him and make any inroads into Michael's lead. And it could have been a critical moment in the race. We expected it, but it just didn't actually pan out that way.
Without that restart, Michael Schumacher would have won by, what, 15, 20 seconds, wouldn't he?
Yeah, Jim, let's not kid ourselves. At the end of the day, the guy was long gone, and I think it would have been an easy 15-second win.
Martin Brundle made Giancarlo Fisichella his driver of the day, didn't he? And there wasn't too much disagreement from you chaps.
Absolutely not. I mean, he's a top-line driver. He's gone about his business quietly this year, but he's been putting the results in Canada. Unfortunately, he had that accident in Monte Carlo where he hit Sato in the smokescreen, but he's been putting the points away. He's a top-class driver, and I'm sure he's very, very high on Williams' list.
We're going to have a word now with a man who's had a few critical things to say about Silverstone in the past, it's fair to say. It's Bernie Ecclestone. He's with Ted Kravitz.
Indeed, yep, down here with the Governor, Bernie Ecclestone. Bernie, this place does need a lick of paint, doesn't it? But it does tend to produce good races.
No, nothing wrong with the racetrack. It's just I've only ever complained about, the access, which seems to be okay now. It looks like people have said to me we had to get in okay without any problem, and the rest of it just needs to be brought up, a little bit more modern. We're still back in the 50s, I think. But no, I'm sure they get it together in the end.
And we'll be coming back here, why not? And or London in the future, why not that too?
As they get a promoter that wants to sign a contract to have the race, I'm happy to sign it and let's go. And as you quite rightly say, maybe with London as well.
What about this Michael Schumacher? He's just winning all the time, isn't he?
He's just good, isn't he? The team's good, he's good, everything's good. Can't take that away from the guy's good. And I hope he keeps winning, and we wait and see if he can win all the championship bar the one he's lost.
Thanks very much, Bernie.
The political games go on then. Silverstone, though, has done us all proud throughout the weekend. We've been with Jaguar. Mark Webber has scored a precious point.
Mark, you look like you had to work with that one. You sweated quite a bit this race.
Yeah, it was. Had to work really, really hard with the car and look after the tyres on the two-stopper. The guys are in touch with me quite a bit about, just with the engine and getting the most out of it and then saving it at the points that we needed to be strong in the race. So overall, yeah, we couldn't have done any more. I don't think the foundations were laid in qualifying for us. Good start. I got beside one, but had to go on the grass, and it's quite a narrow straight here, so I didn't really have anywhere to go. And then I was just settle for where I am and get through Copse and Beckett's and try and pick up anything we can. But it was a good race. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and it's interesting. Obviously, something might have broke there or something. A big crash for a safety car at the end of the race, which was unusual. But overall, it was a good afternoon.
No, it's certainly exciting from our side. We didn't know what was going to happen at the end. We thought you were under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, it was a little bit there, yeah. I mean, the Saubers were quite fast, to be honest, and we saw that Giancarlo and also Philip was quite strong, but we had him covered. It's the cars were strong and weak in different points of the circuit, so I said to be careful where not to make any mistakes where I was weak.
Oh, very good drive, very impressive.
Getting better with experience. Thanks.
It's a good drive, it's impressive. There's not that many points, though, and it probably means that the move to Williams is very much on.
Yeah, I think it's imminent, but I mean, he's the hardest working driver in Formula One next to Michael Schumacher. He's Schumacher-like in his approach, in his fitness. He's been over to the Tour de France with Lance Armstrong, his big mate. About 7 days ago, he did this 24-hour cycle race and so on. His fitness is supreme, and his loyalty to Jaguar has been superb.
How much will this result mean to McLaren?
A great deal. You know, this is another step in this season which they needed desperately. Mercedes-Benz, also you're seeing reliability come back into the fold as well. The guys back there, I think, have got, as Ron Dennis alluded to again, they've got some more versions to come in Germany. This is where McLaren normally are, and that's where they should be, but they still need to catch up to Ferrari on the race pace. Nobody can touch those guys yet.
We do need a strong McLaren, and BAR slipping back a bit. Not the greatest day for Williams either, Tony.
No, they've got a big slide to correct, although Juan Pablo's come back a little bit, because they only had 2 points in the last 4 races, and they come back with a 5th place here. But they're actually testing the car during the races they're going along. In France, they were putting development parts of the car that hadn't been tested. They're having to take those type of risks to get back on a par with the competition.
Good. Tony, Mark, thanks very much indeed for your company throughout the weekend. Coming up next here on ITV1, we have the first of a new series. Vicky Butler-Henderson presenting Formula Woman. Be sure you stay tuned for that one, won't you, on ITV2. Stage 8 of the Tour de France, that is already underway. Highlights of the British Grand Prix are on this channel, 11:45 tonight. Repeat on ITV2 tomorrow evening at 6. And next weekend, Speed Sunday at 2, features Sir Jackie Stewart and Mark Webber. We are back in a fortnight with the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, live with qualifying, pre-race show at noon. Germany highlights are at midnight. It is a home run then for Michael Schumacher after another day when he has battered the opposition out of sight. Bye-bye.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by the Daily Telegraph is itv.com/F1.